How you doing, mate? All
Good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Been a while since we've done this.
It has. It's been...
Miami.
Shit, yeah. Yeah, God, yeah. Almost a year, which isn't kind of crazy because a lot has happened in 1 year.
You're going to be a dad.
Yeah, wow, that's kind of crazy in itself. I keep having to remind myself it like hasn't really sunk in that it's going to happen, but it's going to happen very soon.
What does it feel like?
It's definitely scary, but like anything, when you accept that it's happening, you can start to get excited about it. And it's definitely I'm starting to get excited about, like, you know, you see friends that have had kids, you see people around you, and like the really nice moments, you're like, oh, I'm looking forward to those. Like because I think one of the things that people say is that every day is something new. And you don't really get that in life unless you make that happen. And so when you have this new thing that's in your life and it's a new experience every day, the good and the bad, it's a special thing because it's something that, you know, everyone kind of goes through in their own way. And it's a special thing, parenthood. So yeah, excited for it. Definitely nervous, definitely underprepared. There's never a right time. So
yeah, I don't think anyone can be prepared for
no, literally. You could be, I mean, doesn't matter about resources and money, like just even mentally, you've no idea what comes around the corner. So yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. How are you feeling about me having a kid?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be,
Uncle Cam.
Yeah, I want to be there.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about, like, obviously the first year is probably a bit tough, but yeah, I want to definitely do some things.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think the nuclear family is an amazing structure for life and a really good way to, move forward. Because I think it's quite hard for men to step into that sometimes. Financially, it can be a big responsibility, and even just having the relationship to begin with can be difficult for everyone on both sides as well. So I think it's just really cool whenever I see young people from like the millennial generation and below, like going into family and stuff. I'm always like, yeah, that's props, because we don't see it that much.
Definitely, and I think it's really hard for people as well if they don't have, you know, a lot of direction in their life, and there's a lot of stuff that challenges for people our age and below now. That the thought of bringing a family into the world or creating a family is, you know, it can be really daunting. I have a lot of friends that are either still living at home or they haven't bought a place, and they're all limitations. And I feel really lucky that I have got to do that. And in many ways, I kind of feel like it's been I owe it to myself, owe it to like the world and the society to do it right and to do it as well as I can. So
yeah, that's a good intention, man.
You know, it's
and yeah, well, I'll have to give you a short period of time off.
Yeah,
it won't be like the Facebook paternity leave, unfortunately.
No, well, also that's the sad thing about like working for yourself is that you don't get actual paternity from the government. They don't give self-employed people paternity leave. So as directors of business, we don't. Whereas if, say, for example, you work for Facebook, the government will give you a certain amount of money for 2 weeks as like, there you go. That's just will cover things.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for mothers, they get maternity, so they get statutory maternity, which isn't a lot. Like, it's still great. So Isabel, does afford Isabel to take off like a year basically, on top of what she gets from her company. But it's the sort of thing where, like, as a man, you get 2 weeks and then straight back in. So it's amazing because obviously those 2 weeks go really quickly, and then you have to kind of pick and choose. But yeah, for us it'll be different because like I'm not going to be like offline, and the nice thing is in the first couple of weeks it's like same routine. They eat, they shit, they sleep, and so like I am going to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to have my phone and I'm going to be talking to the team and talking to you. Like, it's not like I'm it's probably less laptop for the first 2 weeks, and
you get to be at home as well.
Yeah, that's the nice
which is kind of nice because you get to be there the whole time. Because sometimes like that 2 week period is like right back to the office, and you've got to go back to that 9 to 5, not sleeping. Whereas now you can, like, if you need to take a nap, you can actually do it. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I know. Also, and it will kind of.
There's no lunchtime bit.
Yeah, that's it. You can kind of just take that. Like, if you do need to sleep, and also that's the thing you have to get used to in the beginning is like tag teaming a little bit with one of you takes like a 6-hour break. Obviously it's a bit shit for Isabel because she has to feed the baby, whereas I can be like, hey, okay, I'm going back to work now, I need to take 6 hours sleep, so during one of those feeds I'll sleep in the other room, or I'll just be on the sofa. It's not going to be 5-star 8 hours whoop's going to be loving life, but it's going to definitely be you got to prioritize a bit of sleep for when you go back to work.
I think you'll be all right, because I think if you had to go back out and commute to an office and be in that environment, come back, I think that's where you sort of start to lose ground in it.
For sure,
but I think you'll be able to like recover in the day, and
hopefully, and also
it'll be really nice, like a different environment compared to like typical.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it's just an adjustment. My job as well is kind of going to be making sure Isabel gets out and about, doesn't like just hunker down with the baby. Like, you got to realise that you have a life to live as well, and that means just restarting into the smaller things. First of all, going for walks, then going to cafes, then being like, hey, we're going to go out for lunch with friends and dinner with friends, and like that's kind of where I see making sure that I promote that, because otherwise it can be easy to just sit in a routine where you lock yourself away from everyone, you don't leave the house, and all of a sudden 3 months has passed and everything is ruled by the baby, which is, we've seen different friends that, so we have some good friends, Brad and Anna, who I think they went to Copenhagen for the weekend within the first 6 weeks, and everyone was like, what, that's crazy, but it was the best thing they did, because they got on a flight, they went and explored a city, it forced them into a routine where it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Like broke the notion that you can't do stuff.
Yeah, because people think, oh my God, a flight, that's really hard, really difficult. But actually, it's different. Like, one of you's probably going to be stood up all the time with the baby, and it's not very nice when a baby cries on a plane. You feel that like anxiety or disturbing everyone else. But they said that you're amazed by how many people come up and try to help you. If you get to go first everywhere. Like, people are like, oh yeah, come this way. You don't stand in queues. And once you've done that and you've got into that routine, taking the baby to Scotland or taking the baby to see your parents isn't that much of a big deal in the first couple of months. And that's the sort of thing where you see people do that and you're like, okay, it's worth trying to do something a little bit more substantial in the beginning.
And to Ibiza?
Yeah, well.
To Carl Cox opening?
Yeah, that would be kind of nuts.
Yeah, maybe
that could be just me. My baby business trip.
Oh.
But yeah,
those one day when we went to Ibiza for one night.
Yeah, that was the kind of one of those things where at the time we're like, that's a really good idea. And you were like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. We're going to book the flights. And then all of a sudden we're doing it and you're like, oh shit, what have we done? Like, we should have stayed another night.
I was so tired.
It was awful, because it was the sort of thing where we were there long enough where we needed a hotel, but we weren't there long enough to really use it, because we went to Amnesia to Paradise. We got back at like 6 a.m. and we had to get up at like 8 a.m. to get to the airport for 11 o'clock flight, and it was...
We shouldn't even booked it, to be honest.
I know, I don't know why we did, but it was worth doing, because we obviously...
Yeah. We definitely shouldn't have booked 2 rooms. We only need 2.
No, I know, but
Anyway.
That's funny. But talking of travelling, you are about to head to Bangkok, which is super exciting.
Yeah, my favourite city.
Yeah.
I love Asian cities. I think they're amazing. They're a lot. It's like a lot.
Yeah.
But it's really enlivening, because you got like this... you got this sort of contrast between the quiet aspects of Asia and then like these mega metropolis cities are actually quite modern. And they have a lot of things going on, like way more than some of the Western cities.
Yeah. It seems like it's a lot more compact. There's a lot of stuff happening in the small little crevices between buildings, and the streets are very jammed, and it's like a hive of activity rather than, some places like obviously central London, you feel a little bit like that, but it's a bit more spread out. And
yeah, definitely. I mean, Bangkok itself is a huge city. I think it's bigger than London for sure. It feels bigger.
Yeah.
When you go up on one of the rooftop bars, you can this is crazy big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I'm excited to go to Thailand. I know a lot of people out there already. It's kind of like the great escape for
seems like
winter.
Everyone's getting out there now, because it's January in London, it's currently like 5 degrees and raining it's miserable.
Yeah.
So,
And then on to America
yes, that
for
sounds
Music Week and
really fun.
New York for the production event, and then Founder OS Plus
Yeah.
Mastermind in Austin.
Which, yeah.
I quite like that Founder OS Plus thing. I haven't spent enough time in the content yet.
It's hard. It's really
But
hard.
I do like Matt
Yeah.
Gray. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's helped us out a lot.
Big time. And also, it's the sort of thing where, like, if you really look at what people like that are trying to do, there's so many different nuggets of information that you can glean into, like, especially from a business perspective. What we're trying to do with it is massive, because you look at traditional marketing, you look at traditional ways of doing business, sometimes they don't feel very relevant to what we're doing. And we've seen, as soon as we saw Matt, we were like, yeah, this is the guy that's speaking our language, you know?
Systems.
Yeah. Systems.
But lifestyle.
Low amount of staff.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
Automation, lean. It's
Yeah.
kind of like balancing Ikigai, not working to build a huge thing, but building to build a lifestyle that you're happy with. And it kind of is from that TikTok I sent you as well, where that guy was like, oh, the sweetest spot is 6 to 12 people, high margins, you're putting away a lot and you are optimizing for lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think that's like always been my aspiration for doing products and entrepreneurship is to have well, at first it was no employees. I didn't know anyone would come and work for us, which I'm really grateful for because it's an amazing experience.
I think we should
forcing me to grow. Yeah,
because it's this weird mix between like scary, like I did contracts this week for one new member of the team, but then also increasing hours of an existing member of the team. It's the scariest thing because you're committing to something, which we've always taken this approach of, keep it super lean, Peter Levels mindset. And when you do the contracts, it's like, it feels like you're going against it. But I think the energy that we've had even at the start of the year with the team has been amazing.
It feels a lot more cohesive now.
And it feels like a weight has been lifted a little bit from us. Like having some of the heavy stuff to think about is
the burden.
Yeah, the burden. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, how are you feeling about like some of the new team and the team we've got?
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, in the beginning, I was always under the mindset that it would be just a very small thing, maybe just mostly me and you and maybe a very small handful of people, aka Luke.
Yeah.
Me, you and Luke. But that's kind of evolved naturally because people have just come in and said, hey, I want to like contribute to this. This is something that I'm interested in. And it's always felt like really good and really aligned. But that's also forced us to grow into managers, leaders, setting a vision, communicating that vision, communicating what you need done, which is quite difficult when it's all in your head.
Yeah.
And was once all on a shared Apple note.
Yeah.
And it was all just like through WhatsApp voice notes.
Yeah.
It still is that. It's kind of, it can still be messy like that. But it's cool to have people that want to move this vision forward, and it makes it bigger than you because it is bigger than me. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than the vision. I say, the vision itself needs support from many people, and that's really powerful. So I think it's great. I like it, but I think it's just trying not to overstretch and go too far, and the difference between like letting everyone in because you feel like they would add value, but then you overextend, and then you can't really make the most out of them. And I feel like maybe, that could happen this year if we don't sort of be smart about what's actually needed, what can we actually manage, and empower people to make the most of. Because you want people who are doing something where they have autonomy and they have a sense of ownership. And that happens in a small team because each role is like, oh, it's your role, like it's your bit.
Yeah,
like you tell me, you know. Whereas as soon as you have people then supporting those people, working like in competition with those people, that's when politics happens.
For sure.
And I've experienced that working at companies for 10 years, especially in engineering teams. And politics kill companies. Like they create toxic environments.
Yeah.
Where like all of a sudden it's not about the vision. It's about factions, competition, raises, bonuses, titles, who can win the like affinity with the CEOs, the founders, all of that bullshit, which I'm not going near. So if it means we don't grow as fast, okay, we'll always remain under 12.
For sure. And I think as well, just like it's the lesson that seems so, it seems so obvious to me, but everyone doesn't do it in tech, where they just hire as many people as possible, they spend as much money as possible, and then they have like a limited amount of time in which to execute. And like, to me, that just seems so counterintuitive. And we've taken the approach of like, when we have enough money and then a bit more, we'll hire that person up to this much, and then give them a few more hours if they, because most people want more hours. You say, okay, we'll take more of your time and do it slowly like that. Whereas, you know, a lot of people, I bet if you brought a consultant in, they'd be like, okay, you need to make 4 new hires. You need to bring in someone who's on £100,000 a year, and they're going to deliver this, this, and this. And all of a sudden you're sweating a little bit because you're like, okay, shit, we're spending more than we're bringing in, and we need to hit that amount of revenue by month 3. And then your mind gets torn into this split. It's split between money and vision. And the thing we've done pretty well up till now is be like, we're focusing on the vision. If we don't grow as much, that's fine. Like, we want to keep growing, but vision is number one. Product is number one. What we're building, customers is number one. The money will come if you do that right. But if you focus on money and trying to get hit that 20% mark at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, all of a sudden the decisions you're making on the product side and on the business side suddenly become quite murky, because you're sacrificing potentially good product decisions, taking your time, rushing things, because you're trying to hit growth targets.
Yeah. This is what VC can put. Like, this is what VC creates. Yeah. Because if you have arbitrary growth goals, which essentially is portfolio goals set by a VC fund, you put unnecessary pressure on that. VC, the thing with like starting a startup or a tech startup, especially, because people kind of think, oh, because it's tech, it needs VC. I don't believe in that. I actually don't believe in that anymore. I think early 2000s, when like the whole Facebook thing was growing and everyone was like wanted to start a startup, like the early days of Airbnb and Uber and all these big, companies that we know, like VC was a thing. But the purpose of VC is to own a market as fast as possible. So for a company like Airbnb and Uber, they need to like build a brand so big that everyone's like, yeah, I want to book my thing through them. And that's a choice, but it's also not something that necessarily the founders knew would happen. They just knew that they were growing so fast that it made sense to do it.
The thing you shared with me, with Brian Chesky, who's that thing he wrote about.
Well, yeah, the first 10 investors said no, which is crazy. But obviously at the time, it wasn't an idea. It was just like a thing on a handkerchief. But yeah, 10 people gave up on 10% of Airbnb for $150,000, which, obviously looking back, it's like, I could have guessed those bank numbers. I could have guessed those lottery numbers, but I didn't. That's fine. Nowadays, I think VC it can be a very useful tool if you want to move very fast. And I think if you're prepared to hold a container that can make use and deploy VC, you can be really good with it. I've just seen too many founders crash and burn to believe that it's a good way. And the companies that I've worked for are like, they have crashed and burned, you know what I mean? Like, not really. The founders are not enjoying their time. Some have done really well. And some have just, changed, and they've changed management and they've left, and the brand still exists, but it's not got the same energy. Because a VC will leave if it's not growing at a certain rate. They just move on. They just say, oh, that's a dead one, and they move on to the next thing. And when I went to Bali for the first time and met people like John Longfolk, who's like another Peter Levels guy, he built Banner Bear.
Oh yeah. What a great company.
Yeah. Just but like he was in a co-working space called Tropical Nomad. Yeah. And I worked there, and I was like, this is it. Amazing. This is what I want to do. Yeah. And it was like palm trees, and I went back there recently, and it's not the same. But when I went there, it was like literally on the top of a hill. Anyway, I went and spoke to this guy called John Longvolk, and he was like a maker, this Peter Levels thing. And then he was saying, yeah, like, just do it myself. I was like, that's so cool.
So cool.
He was like, yeah, no VC, no employees. I'm just doing it all myself.
And he just tweets all his numbers. He just he just like puts out.
He just shares the journey.
Yeah, and everyone's like, what are you doing, mate? Why are you opening the hood? But you're like, that's the way. I think you said it to me a long time ago. It's like, that's what pure entrepreneurship is.
Yeah, it's hard. There's no fake.
Yeah.
If you get VC, it's like fake for a while. It feels busy. There's like loads of people walking around. You've got a logo on a wall, and you got t-shirts and stuff. And you're like, yeah, I got a company. And then you look at the income, and it's like there is none.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? The burn rate's high.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy, and everyone's like, yeah, Fridays, and let's go out drinking on the company credit card.
Ping pong table. Woo.
Yeah. And then when it goes shit, everyone leaves.
Yeah.
So there's no loyalty.
No, not at all. And it is like, I think as well, there's a huge amount of bandits in that world. Like, I won't name names, but I've seen people in companies that are clearly on crazy salaries, just sapping as much out as they can, and they'll move on to the next startup, and they'll just do that to that to that.
The consultants.
Yeah, their resumes look really good. Because
I've seen some of them,
but they're
rubbish.
Yeah, they don't care. They're not in this, because sometimes as well, which is another thing, you get people who go to these startups and they give their heart and soul, and obviously they get equity, but they put everything into it. And and I respect that, because that is a really hard thing to do, because you are kind of playing blackjack with your life, and the time you have, especially in sort of a certain period of time where you're in your sort of your career prime. A lot of people put a lot of time and a lot of effort into some of these startups that end up just either bad decisions or bad money management, or the VC model just burns them, and it's sad to see sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is always financial negligence. Overextending is what I would say.
Yeah.
Having lots of employed full-time people when it's not necessary for the state of the business is not a good move. However, there are a lot of examples where it works really well and you can build a really big company.
Dragon's Den model. I was actually watching it last night. We switched it on, and there was
What a show.
Bubble tea company, and like they got investment from like 3 or 4 dragons wanted to get, and like they're the sort of thing, like their model was like, yeah, we're going to put stores all over the UK. It's the start of a wave in a market, which I've never really had bubble tea, but it seems like Gen Z absolutely love it. And there was like this thing where, okay, just put it as wide as possible, get as many stores, as many franchises. That's the sort of thing where it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because you're mass market, you're looking at millions of people potentially becoming customers, and it's about overheads. Like every additional store costs money, and therefore the more investment you have, the more you can show the actual growth, which then a VC or a bigger investor would come in and be like, okay, you've proven growth there, here's more money to then go bigger,
expand,
then you eventually recoup it. And that's kind of the classic model, which it definitely works for these fast moving consumer goods, these companies that
marketplaces.
Yeah, marketplaces, those ones that really benefit from just like, the bigger we grow, the better it will be. And if they can do that, then it's like, yay, quid's in.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure Etsy was the same. Obviously, Airbnb, any of those that sit in that realm, like it makes sense for.
Yeah. I think with software though, it can be like more difficult, because most people have an array of tools to do most productivity requirements on the internet. So you've only got 2 options. You either like go and take on a brand new emerging market. Like at the moment, most of the VC money goes into AI. So like the Chat GPTs, the Claudes, and so on, because that's like the new realm of market and growth. Yeah. And then most of the other things have been done.
Yeah.
So now you have to go and you have to go to a specific audience.
Yeah, very much so.
And that's like, I like that more.
Yeah.
Because, well, that's kind of the mindset we've taught ourselves, because when we were in the early days of looking at like, well, what makes a good SaaS, the guy was like, look at the bigger SaaS companies and take like one thing they do okay and do that bit really well. You know?
That was the whole like the software ideas thing, that news, I can't believe the guy shut it down, because that was like
It was really good.
so many nuggets of, there's this $2 billion corporation. They do these 4 products and they service these companies that are massive. Here's a $100 million idea. If you just take that feature, just do that, execute on it really well. Here's your sales pipeline. Here's your ideal customer. There's a business. And he would just give 3 or 4 away every week or every month. And I think he ended up doing like 70 newsletter. I can't remember his name, but it was such a, and there was probably a dozen in there that we were really considering before we did Trackstack.
Definitely. I think it taught me pattern recognition. So being able to identify like those ideas and other ideas, and then be like, oh, that's that pattern there. Let's zoom in on that.
Yeah.
And then like, let's figure out what the structural, like, where's the chaos in this space or this idea, and how can you bring more structure to it? And then you can build an experience that enables the structure.
Yeah.
And that's like the underpinning of most good software.
Absolutely.
And business.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, bringing structure to people's lives, whatever it is, whether it's, the Airbnb example, whether it's, obviously we used to read a lot of Arvid Khan, the guy who did Zero to Sold.
Yeah.
And he did it with he's such a niche thing. It was people who were remote teachers teaching online classes. Such a really niche business, but it was like a $10 million idea. But he basically built something for his wife, who was a teacher, so she could manage online classes, manage homework, and that problem just existed everywhere else in the teaching space. But everyone was using all these other products to pin together these solutions.
That's also another symptom.
Yeah.
When you see people duct taping other products to do a workflow, that's always a really good one.
You see people using Notion, spreadsheets, big wide general tools.
Productivity tools, yeah.
Yeah.
That's typically a sign for something more specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, leading into Trackstack, because this is a building Trackstack podcast.
It is, yeah.
What are we building?
Yeah, well, it's been a bit of a whirlwind start to the year, because it's like every year we try to start it off with a lot of, grounding, starting from a base to build off of. And basically, I mean, the big thing this year, the headline for Trackstack is going to be Studio. It's the new product. It's the thing we've been talking about for a while. It's the thing that, I've been working on in the background for 8 months without any sort of real public noise about it. And we've just come from doing I'd say a 6-month alpha test, if you can be techie about it, with Kick and Bass and Super Serious, which has gone really well. We've had its ups and downs, definitely, like any sort of project, the start of any project. And these guys have been really patient with some of the bugs, but they've also taken some of the risks to help us get going on some of the use cases. And we've basically got to the start of the year where we're now launching with our 10 founding studios, which is something we've been securing over the last couple of months, to basically a group of existing or new educational content creators within the electronic music space that are they are going to be launching studios with us, that we're going to be focused on content marketing. We're going to be focused on supporting and helping us build the product to get to a point where it becomes general release later this year. And then we've essentially, the end of this month is about the beta test, which is going to be inviting a lot of the people who've shown interest so far to either start trialing it and set up their studio and really just scaling it this year and getting it to a point where we have a lot more features, we've got payments sorted, everything's nice, and like anything, there'll be bugs, but it's stable and people are starting to earn money from their music expertise, which is a big change for Trackstack. It's really the next step.
Yeah, I think the intention of Studio is to give people the opportunity to consider other ways to create sustainable income whilst they're in their music career, outside of gigs and labels and releases and all the things that come with being an artist, but also recognizing that the actual value of your expertise in the creation of your music is also valuable to other professionals that are trying to advance their own skills. And for some people who are maybe towards the end of wanting to tour full time and do that lifestyle, this is a great way to package up what you've done over the last 15 to 20 years and like build something that can be a sustainable compounding asset that you can use to, you know, stay in the industry and like feel like you're still in it and give back, whilst also being in a place where you're not so swept up in the changes in the world, you know, with AI and all of these things that make lots of job opportunities like more contested, so to speak. You're like, well, no, actually I've got my expertise and that's valuable, and I can rely on that to advance my family forward, or, you know, buy a house, and some things that we all, no matter who we are, need to, you know, work towards in our life. So this is a very cool intention that we're trying to put out with the product, which is, you know, for all aspects of valuing your expertise and having a place where you can, you know, organize and sell that on your terms. Because right now the market is very old school. It's done by a few monopolistic marketplaces that you know, hold all the distribution, so to speak. I don't believe they do. I actually think the distribution is in the artists themselves. It's their audience that these companies are leveraging to drive, you know, conversions, which is fine. You know, that worked. That's very early 2000s way to make money online. You know, you have like this marketplace, and you don't have the technology infrastructure as an artist, you don't have the production infrastructure, and you don't have the ability to market it. And now, like, you know, you can get a camera, you can start recording, you have followers, you have an audience, you have distribution. The missing part is just the business tools to scalably and securely like organize that, and like organize a structure around that is grows with you. And I think this will be the start of a new wave, and also the end of the reliance on, you know, older platforms that you still pose a very good proposition to the community and to the industry, but are old school. And being paid once for a video that you produce for another company, I think is undervaluing your expertise massively.
For sure, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's, you know, what goes into making music is so difficult. It's like, coming from someone who's doesn't do this, it's such, I see the learning curve of so many artists from when the time they're starting out to the progression they make. It's not something that takes weeks or months, it's years. Building up a career of 8, 9, 10 years really generally does make you an expert. And there's so many people who would love to learn that, and going off and doing a one-off video or doing a course, and then, you know, you might get paid some royalties, or you probably get paid a one-off fee. It's great because it gives you a little bit of a boost straight away, but that's something in the same way that you're doing with music, like with a label. It's like, yeah, that gets you the initial boost, but that has longevity. That's your catalog. It's no different to your actual music catalog. Like, it should be treated in the same way. And because people are going to learn off that forever, or they can do, there's the opportunity for them to, that's going to be in a public space for as long as possible. And it has a ton of value. And it's what we've seen. Like, we're fortunate enough, we get to see the people who are doing it at the moment, learn from them. And we also get to see what sort of money they're making and how valuable it can be to young producers. And there's definitely a huge demand for more of it. And I think as well, if you're looking from we hear all the time people saying, I want to get signed to this label, or I want to get supported by this DJ. And yeah, there's some general resources, but like, imagine if they could go to that DJ or that label and say, okay, how do I make music like that? Or how can I get the best chance of being signed to that label? And that is like fundamentally like what we want to do with studios. Like, okay, if you want to go get signed by label X, well, yeah, go to their studio, learn from all the people who've been signed by them, go and see all the track breakdowns, go and see what the A&R say about what they're looking for. And that's, you know, like, if I was a young producer getting into the game, suddenly I'm not looking at this wide industry of just like almost overwhelming amount of content and overwhelming amount of potential avenues. I've suddenly got a roadmap to follow. I've got a couple of North Stars to look at and say, okay, I'm going to go over there because I really want to do this first. I really like this sound. This is the direction I want to take my music. And if you were to look at what studio could be in 2-3 years time, I'd love it for someone new to be in, who wants to start making music for the first time, and all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, I know what to do now.
Yeah,
see
that's it, to give them orientation.
Yeah.
In all genres as well. I think, it's really important because often people don't know where to go. They kind of self-learn, but it can be directionless in a way. And having it tied to particular DJs, labels, people that really inspire you, can be more powerful because you stay a bit more within the boundaries of where you want to go instead of kind of going here, there, and everywhere.
Also, like, it's amazing how fucking difficult it is to do it already, because like we had a great chat with Late Replies last week, and these are two guys that they're super switched on. They're very motivated in terms of the journey that they want to go on as artists, and they've figured out a system and built a community around obviously what they're doing with their label and what they're doing with their sound, but they were just relaying some of the issues they faced and some of the problems they do and how manual some of the things are. And you're like, fuck, it shouldn't be that hard to do this. Like, it shouldn't be that difficult to plug in all of these tools and have to, send some of the messages you're doing and do the stuff with the passwords with Vimeo and these sort of things, which, it's so easy to put people off. If you're coming at this for the first time to try and do what they've done, a lot of people would fall at the first or second hurdle because of it suddenly seems hard, really difficult.
Technical. Well, this is what I said about like the third party option being like a easier decision, because I don't have to do anything. I get money right now and I'm doing education and it's kind of cool. And that's great. I think that's a great option, especially if you just want to do it once and get a feel for it. I think that's great. But if you're like doing it and then you're like, actually, I think I'm pretty good at this. And you have a feeling that you could share your expertise in a way that's more scalable beyond just like, privately or on one or two videos, then the studio is kind of like the way for you to do that very easily, to like immediately have everything you need to like start your music education business and scale it up to, infinity. And like, we've obviously coined it and used the lens of Shopify, what Shopify did for e-commerce, to kind of give people an alternative away from Amazon and eBay and things like this. That's kind of like, this is the dynamic, right? You've got like these platforms that kind of act like Amazon, eBay, and so on in this space, where you, as an independent seller, you're like, well, I need to go here to sell, and then you've got to pay fees, and then you've got all this monopolistic behavior rules and all this stuff, and you can't like present it the way you want to present it. And then you get platforms like Shopify, you're like, okay, you got to own it a bit more, but you will give you the back end. Don't worry about that. You can collect payments securely. You can do fulfillment, but it's on you. Go build a customer base, and it's your asset. And that's completely changed the e-commerce landscape and made it possible for indie sellers to sell products, cool products, more unique, more one time, and to not have to be beholden to monopolistic marketplaces.
100%, yeah.
Which we need more of. Like, if you talk about this as a business concept, like, and at large, like, capitalism is all about competition and having lots of options. It's not about one or two monopolies. It's just not. That's not what it is.
No. It is about having, because also it breeds better. Like, it's the sort of economics 101, but it's like competition breeds progress. It breeds better outcomes for customers, and because of the choice, and people have to just decide, not just because it's the only option, but it's like, okay, I've got 4 or 5 or 6 or 100 different options. And I think it's super, super important, because I love platforms like Squarespace, because it suddenly means you don't need a web developer. You don't need a designer. You don't need someone to come in and actually tell you what to do to build. You can build a really nice looking website with very little skill, and it costs you £10 a month. And it's like, that's crazy, because 10 years ago you'd have had to, if you were a business, you'd have paid £5,000 for a development team, and then you'd have ended up paying £200 a month just to have it posted on their servers. And if you were a small business, you had to go to one of these platforms. You had to go to eBay first, or then if you were trying, like, even setting up on Amazon is pain in the ass, like with the people I see people doing drop shipping. But so you were so limited if you were someone who sold like certain, I don't know, made invitations for weddings or something like that, and those sort of things, which you once you build that audience on a Squarespace website or on a Shopify website, that's yours. You keep it. You own it. It's not borrowed. It's not eBay who are eBay are sending you. They're sending you the traffic. If you leave eBay, that traffic doesn't come with you. So you need to build it in a place. You need to build that email list. You need to build that customer list that you can keep hold of. Regardless of what happens, you have those customers now. And you can market to them again and again. You can communicate with them. And it becomes an asset to your business. And I think the same is so true in music. And you see it with people on Instagram. Like, a lot of DJs, a lot of labels have these big Instagram followings, but it doesn't necessarily translate into sales of releases, sales of tickets. It's why labels are really, they question everything when they go to invest in an artist they want to sign. It's like, just because you've got 50,000 followers doesn't mean you're going to get a top 10 Beatport release, or you're gonna make money on that release. It's a completely different game, and that's why stuff like Bandcamp's really interesting. We've heard some crazy stories about people going direct and distributing themselves and then marketing in a way that makes a ton more money than the traditional route.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously music retail sales and electronic music still has an economy. It still has activity because people like to support the labels and the DJs. They like to have the files to mix with on Rekordbox or whatever software they're using. But I do think there's definitely a increasing trend of people selling music directly via Bandcamp, and that is only going to keep increasing, because people want to make the most out of the hype that they can get around a track, especially if it's supported by a particular artist on a particular event, and then everyone's kind of talking about that track. They want to know what it is. If you're not in a position to like capitalize on that and give access to the track, obviously you can give it away for free as a download if you want, but don't be, it's okay to also say, hey, can you give me £2 for that?
Yeah.
Or £1 for that? And a lot of people are cool with that. And especially in like the more electronic between DJs, it's a known thing. It might be different with, friends who are used to streaming only.
Yeah. But
I do think that there'll be more of that, especially in the younger generations of electronic artists.
For sure. Well, it's like, I kind of don't really. I follow a lot of DJs on Instagram, but I can't say that. I have a lot of other people I follow as well, so my algorithm's not completely full wall to wall with DJ content, but it seems like what people are trying to do is they capture that footage of their track being played by a group of DJs, and that's the kind of the pool of assets they use to then market the release. And it's the problem is like, they collect those pool of assets. They have that hype in that moment, whether it's a week, whether it's 2 weeks. Like, there's some tracks that go on for a little while. Like, I think it was, is it Funky Shit, What You Could by Goosey? That's like had a lot of longevity, but the release schedule means it comes out like 9 months later, and it loses that sort of.
Well, that had a lot of there's always like sample issues. And sometimes popular tracks make use of great vocal samples.
Sure,
and there's a lot of work involved in getting clearance for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, that's why usually like tracks that blow up are like edits, remixes, tracks that are like really current or old. And that's why it's a bit of a grey area as well, which is important to talk about, which is like, yes, they're playing it because it's a famous song, but then you can't release it on Beatport because label doesn't want to take on the burden of the legality of it.
It is a funny thing though, like if you just think about the concept of what you're doing there, it's like taking a song and like a piece of art and making more out of it. It's amazing. You hear, like, I don't know what is right or wrong. It's quite a contentious subject, but like, what is the right way? Like, what is the thing that, obviously the original artist should be credited and should be given as much of the, the financial reward as possible. But it's also like, it's also an amazing thing that if someone makes an amazing edit that introduces that song to a new crowd of people that wouldn't have otherwise listened to it. I think there's something, I always think about the Ben Pierce, What I Might Do, that was ages ago. There was I think it was an Anthony, I don't want to get his name, but it was this old soul track. But he turned it into something that was like timeless and like everyone knows it in, rave scene. And it was like, that's the fact that he's done that, taken this and added this and created this new thing, like that's a celebration. Like that shouldn't be, you know.
It was though.
It was amazing.
Yeah. No, he capitalized on that. He
For sure,
had a massive tour off that and career off that one track. Many people have like one track that can like really like propel them forward.
Yeah.
You know, one track just hits right, perfect timing. You see it on TikTok where people who just like go absolutely crazy on the trending. You know, it's not just electronic music.
Yeah.
Like any track can like sort of break you through. That's why it's important just to keep going and let the music flow and all the good stuff that everyone says. Like Rick Rubin, I really like what Rick Rubin said, which is like, make music for yourself and the audience comes last. I think that's really important because often, especially with like DJs that I talk to and what I see in electronic music is people are waiting for approval. They're waiting for validation to kind of express more or make more. They're waiting for more green lights. And ultimately, like you have to give yourself the green light. And yeah, feedback is important and sending it to labels is important. And, you know, sending it to DJs for support is good. But it's also about taking your own initiative and just saying, yeah, no, this music's cool. I'm going to sell it.
Yeah.
I'm going to play it in a mix now. I'm going to play it out to people in a club, like, because I think it's good. And then if people are bopping their head and they're dancing, and that's the job.
Yeah, you've done it.
Like it's okay. It's it kind of stops there. Do you know what I mean? You don't need some really famous DJ to like it as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, you know, that I think now that I've been doing this for a while, I'm like, I get why people love sending their tracks on Trackstack because it is definitely an energy boost when someone likes your music, but don't let that stop you from making music.
Absolutely.
And don't get pissed off they don't like it.
Yeah. Like,
and definitely don't blame us.
Yeah, I know. We
don't know. Like, it's not our fault. Sure.
But it is such a like an important point. Like if you're not doing it for the fact you fucking love making music and you love the feeling of like, because there is something really nice about like, hey, I made this thing, have a look at it, and it makes someone else happy. And but the where it should be important is like you play it and other people are like, yeah, fucking
play it
tune, yeah, and people are like, what is this? And that to me, because I remember John did it with something, or I think you always do it with John. You always play some of John's tracks, and you're like, everyone's like, yeah, this is fucking good, and he's like, you know, it's quite a thing.
I did it on one of mine in Thailand. I went on like a Muay Thai camp because I like training Muay Thai, and we were going to do karaoke and we're in the taxi. And I was in the front, so I put on my phone and I just put on a tune that I made. And everyone was like, what's this? And I was like, cool.
Yeah, sick.
So I kind of get it. I know that there's like, it's also, like a cycle.
Yeah, how are you feeling about music journey now?
Yeah, good. I think there's music in me and it will come out, and I'm just taking my time with it. And you know, I hold space for Trackstack, I hold space for many things. And I make music as a pastime because my days can be very busy, and as you know, like there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. And making music is something I do to relax, and it gives me a lot of energy. Like, when I make the music, it definitely, like, I come out of it, I'm like, I'm kind of buzzed.
Yeah, you do. And also you had like, you think your ideas are a lot more connected to, you know, the what we're doing. I think you have a bit you have a refreshed connection to the people we're working with and
to the user experience. Yeah, that's really important. I do think me going out in the field, going to the events a bit more than you, and like having these deeper connections with the DJs, because I want to, because you know, I am one, so I get them and I like it, and that's like I love doing it. It is a very good source of knowledge.
100%.
And it's probably helped us shape the product in the way it's been shaped. But I would say about the musical journey is that I definitely fell into the trap of like thinking I needed to make something that fitted into the times or like what's popular. And I think that's a plague for artists.
For sure.
You got to do what you play on Spotify all the time. And if it is that, then make that. But if it isn't that, but then you make something different, yeah, be careful.
It is so interesting as well, because it's the sort of, it's a very cliche thing, but it's like, the winners are looking forward, the people in second place are looking at the winners, and that's the sort of mindset in sense of creativity as well. Like, a lot of the people who are really smashing it, they're not making it to fit a sound. Like, they're creating a sound that then everyone is like, oh, that's really cool, and then they make it popular, and people are like, I want to make that, and it seems to be that cycle, and it's natural because going out and making something brand new in whatever realm, not just music but creatively in general, is a scary thing to do, because like everyone has it in them that it's like really not giving a fuck is a hard thing to do. We all like to say that, oh, I don't really give a fuck, but it's a really, like, fundamentally it's a really hard thing to do. And when you see it in people, you're like, okay, that's cool, that's they're really creatively free. And trying to get to that, I think, as an artist is really hard, but when you do, that's where you really free up yourself to make what you want to make, and also make something that's real, that's authentic.
Yeah, it like comes from you.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually your mind and your soul and everything that about your human experience goes into that creation.
Well, I say it's like coming from the core, and it doesn't just apply to music now.
No,
like this concept of like really tuning into like it comes from like the belly, it comes from like within, in your gut, so to speak, and that is like quite a powerful way to not just create music, but ideas can come from that place, and
big time.
Books and everything, anything creative comes from that place at the end of the day, and being able to clear that space, through being healthy, like doing, like being fit, healthy. Your mindset's good, you're feeling good about yourself, you're doing the work on yourself that you need to do. If you need to do therapy and, talk about your past, and, you need to do these things. You need to do the practices that clear the channels, and then it flows through.
Big time.
And then when it flows through, all the things that you want to happen start happening. It's that simple. It isn't any more complicated than that.
No.
Work on yourself, then it comes.
Yeah.
If you don't work on yourself and you just abandon yourself all the time, then the world will abandon you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's this idea of like being brutally honest with yourself and having some sort of ownership. Like, I have friends that and people I meet who they can complain a lot about their situation, and often they're quick to blame other people or other things that have created their environment, and ultimately, until you really own it, it gives you back complete agency over your own life, and then you can make the decisions and you can make the changes to do whatever you want to do, and all of a sudden the boundaries fall away, and then you can do the things that you really dream of, which is a hard thing to do. Everyone has their moments where I do it as well. I blame other things. I say, it's not my. But if you're really honest with yourself, most people can change their situation and improve themselves just by taking action for themselves. It's not other people. It's not other situations.
Definitely. Yeah, I do this thing called an orientation statement. I do it like once a month.
Yeah.
And that's basically, I write down like, I guess the negative things I'm thinking about myself at the moment. So I write down like the things that are going on in my head that are like kind of negative and not self-defeating. So they could be things like, I'm indecisive. That's one of my things that I'm self-conscious about. That sometimes I can make a decision, then I change my mind and I go back and forth. And then I think when I tell people about going back and forth, that they think I'm indecisive and a bit restless and all that stuff. So I write that down, and then I write down other things as well. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough to go to the gym. That's something I struggle with sometimes. Yeah. But I'm cool with that. I'm cool with being vulnerable and writing that down because I want to get better at it. That's life, right? Yeah. And then I write down, okay, like what's the positive reframe of that? And it's like kind of like, what would I be if I was more cool with that? Like, what would I be doing? And then it's very simple. Like, I would be disciplined in going to the gym 5 days a week, you
Yeah.
know? And then off the back of that, you write down like what your next month looks like. So like, I am going to the gym like 5 times a week. I'm dedicated. Like, you know, I'm making decisions resolute. And then it's just like a declaration
Yeah.
to yourself. And then all of a sudden, the sort of things that you're feeling down about that you think are problems, you're like, oh, cool, no, I've dealt with that. Like, I see you for, I hear you for, but we're going to do this differently.
Yeah.
I got you.
Well,
That is like, if you have that type of relationship with yourself in your head, it can be like quite empowering.
For sure. Because also there's something really powerful about actually writing it down, sticking it on a wall, having it somewhere where every day you can either see it, look at it, just remember it. Because, you know, the discipline thing is a big thing. Just generally, everyone wants to go to the gym more. Everyone wants to be more healthy, eat better.
The classics.
But, you know, it's not necessarily about tracking it, but like making that promise to yourself, it's not for anyone else to see, is really, really powerful. Because when you don't do it, you know, it's there to remind you.
Yeah, you do this goal setting stuff, right?
Yeah, and for me, it's not necessarily about being, so like a lot of my goals this year they're not bigger than last year, because I've about to have a kid. So, you know, like I've gone down from being like, I want to run 20k a week to 10k a week, just, you know, which again is, but what that is not actually like, if I don't, the running one's a good one. I really enjoy running. It's really good for my mental health. If I go for a run the next 2 days, I feel great. Like I generally do. If I don't do it for 4 days, I start to feel bad about myself. And it's like, that's how I exist. And so I run for preservation of me, and it makes my life better. So I want to continue doing it by putting it on a piece of paper, regardless of what that number says and how big or small it is. It's like, did I do it that week? Yeah, I did. Fantastic. Well done. You're still doing it. You're still making. I made that promise to myself, and I'm keeping up. And honestly, there's nothing better than like getting to the end of a cycle, whatever it is, and then achieving it and being like, yeah, I did do that. I feel good about myself because I am the sort of person who can set a goal or write something down and then live up to what I've said. And it won't be every day. It won't be the most consistent. If I always say, like, if you set 10 goals for the year and you hit all of them, they were terrible goals, because no one's David Goggins except for David Goggins. And like,
yeah, you do need stretch goals. The idea of goals is not to actually complete.
Yeah, and like there will be goals where you'll be like, I set some last year that were like, I wanted to do some around filming and camera and learning production. Didn't do fucking any.
Yeah, it takes time. Sometimes there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have like that idea, but there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
Like one day you'll pick up the camera and you'll just do it.
Yeah, and there was one goal like I set. It was a running one, and like I was shocked about how I did hit it, and I was like,
you did, yeah,
and it was amazing feeling. And those are the sort of things where like they don't actually need to be like a numbered goal or a measurable goal. It's just like, hey, like this is something I'm thinking about. I want to make a change in my own behavior or my own lifestyle. And when you can say I'm a person that does this, I think is the sort of thing I'm trying to say, is that it could be I'm a person who runs. I'm a runner. And
I think it's important to identify with these things, because then it's more likely you'll bring the habits into your life. Like, you know, like I am a founder, I am an entrepreneur, like I am a runner, I'm lift weights. I think when you do that, it can be more empowering.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you know, it's just habits at the end of the day. These are just like cues and habits.
Yeah.
You know, it is as simple as that. And if you build a lifestyle and an identity around these things that you're interested in, you just do the thing more. You know,
definitely.
And then the goals come and go. I don't set too many goals.
No.
Yeah, I'm a bit different.
Yeah, because your lifestyle, like one of the things that makes you happy, but also makes you like that gives you a lot of meaning in life is change. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes people don't appreciate, is like being able for you to jump on a plane and spend 6 weeks in somewhere and then go to another place and another place. Like that's for you, like taking the goals aside, I think like that's a success. That's a good outcome for you. You are a traveler. You're someone who goes from place to place. When you're doing that, is like, yeah, I'm living life how I want to.
Yeah,
Whereas
I'm in
when
my element.
Yeah, and that's, I think, is,
You know, it's not. Sometimes I'm tired and I wake up like it's too hot here, but
yeah.
I'm also in an element
Yeah.
that I can't quite get when I'm in, you know, the UK or the home environment.
Yeah.
You know,
Because also it's the other things that go along with it. Like you said, you love Muay Thai. And I always say Mai Tais, like that's the drink.
I also
you know,
like Mai Tais.
Yeah, you love Mai Tais as well. But you love Muay Thai. It's like, when do you do that? Where do you do that? You do that when you go traveling.
I do it in Thailand. Yeah, doing it here is not the same.
It's not the same.
It's just not fun at all.
Yeah,
it's not fun
because
doing
it's
in
like
the UK.
Yeah, when you're actually in Thailand, it's hot as shit.
Warm,
you're
there
like, oh yeah,
some shorts, just battering some pads, and you've got the authentic trainer with you who used to be like, you know, everyone who's training you Muay Thai is like ex-fighters.
Yeah.
So they're amazing, and they correct you, and they're all like doing. You know, and I love it. I love the ritual of it. Like the reason I'm going to Bangkok is I'm going to the main stadium where it's done.
Yeah.
And they have the original band that play the track as they fight. It's the same track.
Yeah,
and it's cool. It's a spectacle, man.
Yeah, it is. And
these guys are warriors.
Mate, it is amazing.
It's not like boxing. This is like
because also some of them are they're like 5'4", they're absolutely shredded, and they're just killers, and you're like, God, good job. Thailand is a peaceful country because they're just made of warriors.
What makes them peaceful, because like all the guys train Muay Thai.
Yeah.
So they kick your ass.
Yeah, but they don't. Yeah,
but they're so nice.
Yeah.
I actually think men who can. Jordan Peterson spoke it really well. He said, like, you know, become a weapon, but sheath it.
Yeah. It's like, you know, like killer in a garden or something like that.
Well, it's like, I do believe men should know how to fight.
Yeah.
And should be exposed to violence in a safe and structured way, so that they're familiar with that side of them. They're familiar with that adrenaline side of them, so that they can use that energy to, you know, just like move about the street with more safety for you and your partner, your family. I think, you know, obviously self-defense falls under this as well. But I do think, you know, tapping into your warrior is like an important task for men. I actually think it's really powerful. Because
it is an interesting thing, because it is like such a practiced thing in Thailand. Like, is it something that like all young boys are like? Is it similar to like football in the UK, where everyone goes and fights, even if it's not something you continue into, you fall in love with? It's like you're taught how to do the basic. Yeah.
Some more than others.
Which is
it's, you know, like some dads train their boys more than other dads. Yeah. You know, you get the David Beckhams.
Of course,
the dad takes him every Saturday and he does 1,500 free kicks. That's how you become David Beckham.
Yeah.
There are dads that will put you through and turn you into an Muay Thai athlete.
Yeah. But that's amazing. It's such an interesting, like,
the gypsy community have it. You know, all those guys. Yeah, maybe it's not more on the sort of, can be on the negative side.
Yeah, but it's boxing. They do.
But they're strong.
Yeah. Because it is a really, like, there's something about like physical, like doing a martial art or something that involves, like, quite. The physical consequences are very negative if you get it wrong. Like, it's quite a humbling thing, you know? It's something that you have to be quite... I think you said it's in those situations, you're full of adrenaline. And when you put yourself in that situation, time and time again in a like a structured way, in a safe environment, like, you suddenly become familiar with it, and so it doesn't become as scary. You don't do as many rash things, and so you're able to control it, and you're able to live with the knowledge of it a little bit more. Yeah.
So when I went to a self-defense class, the guy actually taught us wrestling.
Okay.
And he said, actually, if you're ever in a situation, wrestling moves are the safest thing for yourself and the person who's being the aggressor.
Okay, yeah.
Because actually a fist fight in the street is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like things happen, you get pushed over, you can hit your head on walls and stuff.
Yeah.
But actually if you're in a situation like that, like kind of disarming the person by grabbing them and like moving them to the ground is safe for that person and yourself.
And you,
It's having that attitude, having the attitude to know that you're going to be the bigger person and try and diffuse the situation for the safety of yourself and that person.
Yeah.
That's like what being a good warrior and tapping into that side of you is.
Yeah.
And I think, Muay Thai, you know, kickboxing, yes, I think it just taps into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's good.
Jiu-jitsu as well.
Jiu-jitsu, same thing.
It's like the whole...
It's wrestling.
Yeah, like, I mean, you sometimes see videos online of people who get into scraps, and it's always the guys that know jiu-jitsu who, like, you know, it just shuts down if someone goes and, like, picks a fight with them.
When I'm with guys that, like, train like that, they just move differently.
Yeah. Well, it's an airness. You know you can handle
They're
yourself.
just solid in the room, you know. I like that.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
It's good energy.
So, I like Muay Thai. I'll be doing it when I'm there.
That'll be good.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu I want to look at as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked the idea of it. I've just never, one of those things you never really... I drive past a jiu-jitsu hall quite often, and...
It's hard to go in, actually.
One of my friends does it. From my uni housemates, Aaron, he got into it post-uni. He did a couple of classes, and now, like, I think he's got up to blue belt, like, really takes it quite seriously and absolutely loves it. And I definitely noticed a change in him as a man. Like, he's definitely more confident about himself. He's like, it's been a really positive change for him, and... he loves it. Like, it's given him like, I think as well, sometimes especially when we leave our 20s and you go into like normal life, often you give up some of your hobbies, especially team sports and stuff like this. Like, people stop playing football and rugby, they lose a time when they're just doing something physical, when they're not in their own heads or playing computer games or doing the things that are not how. I think it's really important to do something physical where you're moving your body, but you're concentrated on it. So whether it's a physical sport or if it's something like a martial art where it doesn't matter what's happening in the world, doesn't matter what's happening at home, like you're focused on your immediate environment because you're doing something. And that's what like a lot of these physical sports do. So when you're playing football, you're thinking about the football and you're thinking about the pitch and the game and the context of that, and the same with martial arts, you're thinking about that. And I think it's really, really important to do things like that either once a week or, you know, just to maintain that. And I think stuff like going to the martial arts and stuff is a good way of doing it in your sort of later 20s, early 30s, because you're not relying on being on a team. You can go 1 week and if you can't the next, it doesn't matter. Like there's no like league. There's
no competition really.
Yeah, you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, it's not a competition.
And that I think is why it's it is a really, really attractive thing for people who are maybe move to a new city and you want to do something still where, you know, joining a team can be quite scary.
Yeah, because there's like expectation.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, wrapping it up into the vision and what the 2025 Trackstack.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
so we've got studio,
big one.
We've got inbox, some really cool things happening in inbox.
Is I think it would be real important just to give it a couple of minutes, because like some people don't see it changing from the outside, but there's a massive, massive change that's happening this year, which I think you should talk about a bit more, and like how it's going to affect a lot of the people who are more of the peripheral users that aren't really in it at the moment.
So Inbox, when we started, it started off as this tool, and we wanted it to be a productivity tool for streamlining demos and promos. And ultimately it's grown into something that delivers on that, but beyond that into a place where you can connect with labels and DJs and grow your network, grow your opportunity to get signed or supported. But actually what we need to do is bring it back to the functional aspect of, you know, being a great tool. So we're introducing ways for you to share your music and get your tracks where they need to be, you know, beyond just sending it to inboxes, but with private links that have a really, really unique and engaging listening experience. We've spent a lot of time designing a great listening experience that makes static links on SoundCloud or Dropbox or WeTransfer just more alive and more engaging. And we're making those links be a bit of a hotspot for that track or those tracks and give them more life, whether that's like videos of those tracks being played, more community temporarily around those tracks with reactions and comments. And those links for your tracks, as you're sending them round, start to generate, you know, their own history. Because ultimately you've made this piece of work or you've signed this release and you want to get that out there, but often you get that out there, people click on it, they listen to it, and it ends there. And we want to kind of enhance that experience. After that, we'll be working on something called Spotlight, which is basically our answer to a new music discovery approach, which basically gives artists and labels the opportunity to put their tracks onto the spotlight, and for everyone on Trackstack inside Inbox to be able to see that, listen to it, download, buy in some cases, react, and discover it. And this is great for artists who maybe are not so clear on what labels would like their music. And it's also great for DJs that might not be getting a high volume of tracks being sent, for them to just kind of be in there and start to kind of find other artists, find tracks, and like build a relationship with them that way without it being sent to you or you having to send it to create the relationship. So it's kind of reversing what Inbox is. Finally, after this, we'll be looking at the Inbox store, which is basically our answer to what we see as an increasing trend of direct-to-fan music sales. And we think that is the future of music sales, especially in electronic music. And we would like to be a part of that and to create an environment that makes selling your tracks directly to other DJs easy, affordable, and simple. And so we'll be bringing out the Inbox store towards the end of the year. And it's going to be a really cool and interesting change in Inbox to not just be a place where your demos and promos can be heard, listened to, sent, but also a place for you to grow all aspects of getting your tracks where they need to be and getting your tracks heard, which is the primary themes of Inbox.
Well said. I mean, absolutely. It's very, very exciting. And I think really looking at what Trackstack's becoming is not just this tool, but incorporates every single part of your music career, whether it's the making, the sending, the distribution, the actual making of money. And like, we really feel like if we can be a cornerstone for artists and labels and DJs going into 2025 and beyond, is going to be a really great goal for us as a company. And we love the energy of it, and we think other people will really resonate with it as well. So
yeah, man,
very exciting.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think we should end it there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
Stay tuned.